All right.
All right, let me try again.
Perfect.
Okay.
There we go.
There you go. Thank you.
It's us.
Right.
It's us, Walid. It's not just pictures of us on a slide. We're all here.
Yes, we're all here, and we are live on Facebook, by the way, as of now. So bigger and part of it. So it's going to be on Facebook and on Endeavor Tunisia's office page. So I'm going to start by actually make a very quick intro of our panelists today. So I'm going to start with Lars Nielsen, who is a partner and at Winterco. He has worked as VP mobile at Uber, based in San Francisco, and served as head of mobile at Dropbox and advisor at WhatsApp. So Lars combines experiences in entrepreneurship and also in investing. So welcome, Lars. And as soon as I'm done presenting everyone, I'm going to ask you to give me kind of a brief overview of the organization that you represent. Nourdine Tayebi, who has been now Endeavor entrepreneur for almost a year, actually is a co-founder of Yesir. He's also a serial entrepreneur. He's born and raised in Algeria and also has a PhD from Stanford University in electrical engineering. So Nourdine, welcome. And I'm really happy to have you here. Our third panelist is Alan Taylor, that I've known now for longer than Nourdine, since I joined Endeavor in March 2017. And Alan is actually the head of our Endeavor Catalyst Fund, which has been recognized as one of the most active VC funds in Latin America and Middle East, and with presence in like all over the globe where Endeavor is present. Since 2012, Endeavor Catalyst raised over $250 million and made over 170 investments, including in, as of recently, one Tunisian company, which is InstaDeep, but that's changing now, and we're moving to a second investment, but we're gonna tell you more about that now. So Alan, it's a pleasure also to have you joining, and one thing that I'm really thankful for, especially for Nourdine and Alan, it's 5 a.m. in the West Coast in San Francisco. So really thank you for your dedication and the effort you're making to share with other entrepreneur learnings and actually this amazing announcement that we're going to be making in a few minutes. Lars, can you give us kind of an overview about Winterco and the way the fund invests?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having us. I've actually for a long time I've been wanting to be part of Endeavor and so like contribute to the ecosystem. So I'm really grateful, Walid and Alan. Maybe as a way of background, I grew up in Africa myself, including 6 years in Libya. So for me, there's like a certain feeling of homecoming and so like supporting the ecosystem. And I've been an entrepreneur 20 years. I've always been, my craft has been growth. So I've always sort of like been the fuel on the fire for startups, and moved to Silicon Valley when the iPhone launched, and joined Dropbox when we were about 20 people. And then we did a bunch of, we had the viral growth going on, but we also did a lot of partnerships which added 100 million users to the bottom line which we can talk about a little bit later in terms of growth and hacks and so on. But after 4 years there, I joined. I was sort of like a moonlighting for WhatsApp and doing my work there. So like at the same time as I was with Dropbox until they got acquired by Facebook. And then I joined Uber as VP of Mobile. So we were in 20 cities at the time and just went through an explosive growth. Spent 10 years in the Valley and saw a bunch of ups and downs, made a lot of mistakes, a lot of flameouts, but also a couple of lucky strikes. And then moved back to Europe, where I am now. I'm actually in France right now, and joined a venture capital firm. It's the old Benchmark Europe, called Boulderton Capital now. Been there 6 years, and had a blast. And so like learned the move from being an operator to an investor, which I think a lot of people will take that path as well. A lot of entrepreneurs will take that path in the future. I think, you know, Nureddin as an example has already been investing for many years. But I always wanted to go back to the old group at Dropbox again, and sort of like that core team we had and the startup feeling that we had, and this is what I've done. So I've joined the old gang, the old crew at Dropbox, and we started up a fund. And it's not we actually haven't gone public with it yet, but nevertheless, it's I think it's a good chance to share a little bit about what we do and why we got excited, you know, about Yasser and what Nureddin is doing. So it's great to be here.
Thank you very much, Lars. It's a pleasure to have you. Alan, can you tell us a bit more? I mean, people start to know much more about Endeavor, at least hopefully, in the region now. Catalyst is a trickier angle, but I mean, not trickier, but Endeavor is much, I mean, people know Endeavor, but we also need to continue to raise awareness on how Endeavor Catalyst invests in Endeavor entrepreneurs, but also, I mean, the way you would describe the fund in general.
Sure. No, again, thanks for the invitation. Happy to be here. And Waleed, you know the way this works for Endeavor, right? Anything for entrepreneurs. So you say 5 a.m., I say, okay, I'll bring my coffee.
Exactly. Impressive.
But, you know, I'm Alan Taylor, based here in California, but we invest all over the world exclusively in companies led by Endeavor entrepreneurs. And so many of the folks joining us here or watching us live might have heard of Endeavor and the work we do supporting entrepreneurs with mentorship and guidance and building what we think is sort of the world's largest peer network kind of by and for entrepreneurs, right? This is really what Endeavor has become now all over Latin America, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, Africa, even some of the underserved parts of the US and Europe. And Endeavor Catalyst is a venture capital fund owned and operated by Endeavor. And so it's a unique fund that invests at sort of series A, B, and C as companies are growing, but exclusively in the companies Endeavor is already supporting. And we actually use a pretty unique system to do that, which is to say any Endeavor entrepreneur. So if there are entrepreneurs out there watching, hopefully you know this already, but any Endeavor entrepreneur who raises a funding round led by a professional fund, and that's an important piece of the puzzle because we're not seeking to become an investor ourselves in terms of a lead investor, but rather to join and complement rounds that are already happening in our ecosystem. But anytime an Endeavor company does raise money and a professional fund is leading, we can chip in and invest $1 or $2 million. Now, we've been very, very lucky over the last 9 years. As you mentioned, Waleed, in the intro, you know, our fund is still relatively small, about $250 million across 3 funds. But over the last 9 years, we've been fortunate enough to partner with 175 different Endeavor companies, and 25 of those have actually reached a valuation of $1 billion or more. So there's about a 1 in 7 chance of becoming a unicorn so far if you're part of the Endeavor Catalyst portfolio. And now this is about half of those. About half of those are in Latin America. So that's been traditionally our most important market: Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Colombia. But more and more, they are in the broader sort of Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and even Southeast Asia. So we'll get into it and talk more about it. But I think that's what you mean, Walid, when you say Endeavor Catalyst is a unique fund because it is really sort of owned and operated by Endeavor.
Yep. Thank you so much, Alan. Nordine, so we, most of us in the region now know what Yassir does, but I mean, there are still a lot of people who still need to know more in depth the kind of the vision and where what Yassir does now, and even where it intends to go, maybe long term.
Yeah, totally. Well, let me maybe, like Yassir is kind of like tied to a little bit to my background, and so I'll maybe take like a minute or two to introduce myself, and then get to basically talk about how Yassir started, where it is now, and where we want to take it. I grew up in the region. I mean, I was born in Algeria, and as growing up, I always hopped between like Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco. It's like, to me, like the Maghreb region is home. And after I finished my engineering degree in Algeria, I came to the US for grad school. I got my PhD from Stanford, and pretty much spent all my adult life or professional life in Silicon Valley, initially working in big tech at Intel, but then taking the entrepreneurial path where I got the chance to building a team, raise funds, and take things to the next level. And to me, it was actually the most rewarding experience in my life. I mean, the entrepreneurial part, because I got to learn not just like how to build a business and scale it and raise funds, but also the importance of a value system within a company, not just within a company, but also within an ecosystem like that of Silicon Valley, wherein like entrepreneurs give back, like help one another, whether that be in fundraising, hiring people, giving advice, and like scaling the business. And that really, to me, what Silicon Valley is about. I mean, if you always think about Silicon Valley as, smart people, a lot of, capital to deploy, which is true. But those to me were always byproduct of something more important, which is, community of people caring about one another and trying to make an impact within the environment they live in. And that's kind of like truly what Endeavor is doing today, but at like a far much larger scale, like worldwide, pretty much. And so in parallel, like with that experience, I started getting involved in our region, like the Maghreb region. But initially, honestly, it was in a passive way. And what I mean by that is that I would mentor teams. Sometimes I even like fund teams that I liked. But very quickly, what I came to realize that, like in our region, to me, the bigger problem, I mean, like you always complain about maybe like bureaucracy, sometimes lack of funding, which true, I mean, are like real problem in our region. But to me, the bigger problem was to have entrepreneurs with the right mindset and be ambitious enough to actually wanting to build something that can go global. And I felt that was lacking, and that was kind of like what kind of like the backstory of me, like coming back to the region and wanting at least to attempt to like build a local success model where like the values that I mentioned like would be inculcated, like the best practices in terms of like executing would be implemented. And that's kind of like how Yassir started, to be honest, with kind of maybe like a fourfold objective. One was to hopefully create that success model that could be emulated by others, and primarily by other team members within Yasir that, you know, like tomorrow would actually start their own companies and could, you know, like use what learnings, you know, they've had within the company, and, you know, create these multiple champions and create like a full, much bigger ecosystem. So that's like was one of the first objectives. The second objective was to actually like, especially like from the technical perspective, like the technical talent usually doesn't have many opportunities in the region, and many of them actually tend to go to primarily Europe to pursue studies or find jobs there. So it was really important for us to actually, you know, like allow the technical talent to stay within the region and give them those opportunities to actually, you know, like build products that can go global. So that was kind of like a second objective. And then the third objective, and, you know, like hence the name Yasir, which means, you know, like making the one that makes people's life easy, was like the impacts, like from a product point of view, that we could develop that could have, you know, like an impact on the daily life of people. And actually, like if you read the mission statement of the company, it's as simple as, you know, making the lives of our people easy while infusing social values. And like, and then, you know, it comes like what the business model of Yasir is. The business model of Yasir for us was to, from the very beginning, creating like an ecosystem of services that are interdependent, which would, you know, attain that objective of, you know, like making people's lives easy, but also more importantly, you know, like infuse social values like through those products. And we started with on-demand services, but now like we're moving towards, you know, like something much bigger that could, you know, like have even a higher impact in the region. Most people, like, you know us with ride hailing, and then we moved to last mile delivery, and now like we're getting into other products that to me like would be the end game, to be honest, like in terms of our business model. So it's like building blocks that we're getting together and making it happen. And then, you know, like the fourth objective that I mentioned, three so far. The fourth is really like through our products, infusing the social values that I mentioned before, like helping one another, trusting one another, which are as important. And it turns out also that they're super important in terms of fueling our growth as well. So it's, you know, like a win-win situation in all aspects. Yeah, that's kind of maybe like a long answer to the question about, you know, like what this year started and what it is now.
Perfect. So one other important thing that happened a couple months ago is Yasir and another company, Proven Med, in our portfolio, both were selected as Endeavor outliers, which is the like globally the top 5% entrepreneurs like in the Endeavor network in terms of performance. And we're really proud that now we're getting to a point where we're having really companies, scale-ups that are gonna really like that are reaching to the moon, basically. And our role is to continue to support these scale-ups and have even more outliers. So that by itself is big news, but we have bigger news today to share with our listeners. And it's not by chance that we have Nurdin with Lars and Alan. So actually, Yasir got to a point where it is growing very fast and needs to continue to take it to the next level. So to do so, I'll let actually Nurdin let you know what they just did, which is we're very happy that he also accepted to make this announcement as part of this Endeavor webinar. So, Nurdin, I'll let you the privilege.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, as you
there's been Nurdin, there's been a lot of hints in the introduction now. People are definitely anticipating something. Go ahead.
Well, so startup by definition is, like a company that that requires exponential growth. And exponential growth, you're talking about, uh, like even, like a weekly, like significant growth. So it's super important. And to be able to achieve it, you need capital. And as you can imagine, like in any startup, really, like that's what allows, like a company to be taken to the next level. And for us, like we're very ambitious. We want to be the first unicorn in the region. And so, yeah, we've been fundraising, and we're actually, the announcement is that we're finalizing closing of our Series A, which is a pretty significant round of like $30 million.
$30 million.
Yeah, 30, yes. So which, like, if I'm not mistaken, would be the largest in the region. And so, yeah, that's, we're super happy to do that. And honestly, to me, it's more of, what the one that deserves it the most is the team. I mean, they're the ones, like working super hard day and night. You're talking about, like having a meeting at 5 a.m. Like I've seen the team, exchanging emails at like 1, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., like working super hard, motivated, believing in the mission, believing in the vision. And I think, like this kind of fundraise would really allow us to take things to the next level and make more things happen. We're really at the beginning of our journey. We're not even at the 1%, to be honest. So, so yeah, super happy to make that happen and put our region on the map. So
that's amazing. And actually, the other news is Lars is leading the round. And that's why also we have him with us today. And Catalyst is going to be one of the investors, or is one of the investors.
Indeed, yeah. So Underco is leading the round, and there are other investors also joining, Endeavor Catalyst, and many others. So we will be hopefully making an official announcement, like when the full closing is processed. And yeah, there will be, all the details of the round will be disclosed, including hopefully some surprises. So,
yep, perfect. So Lars, you have experience you've had experience in this space already, as you mentioned with Uber. What did you like the most when you first met and started talking about this? Yassir's business with Nourdine. What were the pieces that were the most interesting or attractive?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking the question. I think it was, taking a filter of what I've seen work in Silicon Valley, which I sort of boiled down to the team, the product, monetization, and timing. And I got introduced to Nourdine from an old buddy of mine from the Valley as well, from actually a Dropbox alumni as well, who's also an investor in this round here, who's somebody I respect incredibly highly. And Nourdine, we've probably been speaking for the good part of a year, Nourdine, something like that?
Yeah, since the fall, I think. Yeah, since the fall, maybe September. Yeah, almost a year. Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, on and off, and got to know each other, and it was sort of like the more layers I peeled off, the more excited I got as well. But the more there was to discover. But as a whole, I think the category is very, very interesting. I absolutely loved the focus on French-speaking Africa. Which so like at the offset sounds like a niche, but guess what? There are more people in French-speaking Africa than there's in all of Europe, actually. So it's a massive total addressable market. And then as I got to know Nourdine as well, and I really was convinced that he would be able to pull it off with his team because of the way he was speaking about his team and the way he's hiring people. And the way he's thinking about scaling, so like aggressive aggressively, but in a very thoughtful way. And one of the criticisms of the industry is, of course, the unit economics. And again, the moment you start to peel off the layers of the financial model, you realize that Yassir's burn is incredibly low. So it's almost like the biggest challenge of that category of companies they have addressed by actually hiring local. And to me, that was very, very attractive. And and this is where the whole conversation started, really.
Amazing. Alan, Endeavor has selected and invested in many businesses in mobility over many years now, and in many geographies. Are there any trends that actually make you feel excited about like what Yassir is doing, or any things that you start like connecting the dots when you look at Yassir's business based on what you have seen in all these geographies with Endeavor?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'll start by saying, Nordine, congratulations on this announcement. Right, obviously we all knew the news going in here, but very exciting to share it a little bit with the world. Walid, to your question, the main thing we see in common across all our investments in all these geographies is the fact that these companies are led by amazing entrepreneurs, right? And that's because the entrepreneur himself or herself, are at the heart of everything Endeavor does. Nordine, not to put you on the spot in front of everyone, but you're the star of the show, right? We think entrepreneurs change the world together with your teams and all the people building these companies. And folks like Lars and myself, we're just here to help, right? And I think that's very much kind of how we think about it and how we view the role of the entrepreneur and the team versus the role of the investor. Specifically in this category, we have been very fortunate to partner with a number of companies. Endeavor has supported Careem over the years out of Dubai. We were early investors in Cabify from Spain, which has expanded throughout Latin America. And I've actually personally gotten to know the founders of companies like Grab and Gojek in Southeast Asia. Right, so this is if you think about kind of moving things and people around or technology disrupting, lots of things around logistics, we think that's a really interesting trend to follow across all these different geographies. But what it also does is it creates a relationship for the business with people and with consumers that really does give you the opportunity to do even more. And we're actually having a chat tomorrow as part of our Endeavor Catalyst annual meeting with the founders of Careem and of a company called Rappi in Latin America that has now scaled to be of pretty significant size. And, the conversation is about these super apps, right? And, how does this work when you start to take over such a big part of a consumer or an individual's sort of digital footprint and interaction? And whether or not you buy into super app as the concept, it certainly is the future, right? That these companies have the opportunity to be a really important part of bringing technology to these markets and to many, many different parts of consumers' lives, right? And we're quite excited about that and see very similar trends across geographies. So hopefully, Nordine, in our partnership with Endeavor Catalyst, we can bring some of that to you guys and share some of the learnings we've had along the way.
Totally.
Thank you, Alan. So, Noor, in the journey you have mentioned of fundraising, and actually, it's pretty amazing that we're talking at the same time about a Series A and a $30 million investment. So, having a Series A at $30 million is even more exceptional and unique. I'm sure we didn't have that in the region before. So in the journey, I mean, you started with angel investment, etc., and now you got to Series A. What are the main learnings that you would like to share with other founders? So in the context of the event we are running, just as a reminder, Mediterra Ventures Day, we have organized 80, today we have 80 meetings that are happening one-on-one between investors and entrepreneurs, all virtual, obviously. So, and a lot of them are listening and watching this panel. So, what other recommendations that you would give them based on what you learned?
Well, the first one is to build a great business, because if you don't have a great business, it's going to be hard to raise funds, and really have the attention to details. So that's on the business side. And then like on the fundraising side, like something super important, and kind of maybe Lars referred to it a bit, is to be able to build a network, because the best way to actually start talks with investors is through warm introduction. And what I mean by that is that, like someone that would know you, that would vouch for you, and would, like go talk to, say, like a partner in a VC firm, and can say, guys, look at this guy, or look at this company, they're doing great things, and kind of, provide that filter for that partner within a VC firm, and that's super important, honestly. So I always tell, a lot of entrepreneurs say, "Oh, I'm not ready. I should, make sure that, I'm at some level, before I start, talking and, being on the map." I always tell them, do it as soon as you can, because it's a journey. I mean, Lars mentioned earlier, like we started talking back in September. And so it takes time. It gives also confidence, to partner within a VC firm, or a VC firm in general, to see your evolution, through that transition. Even if you're not actually ready to raise funds, it's always good to have that relationship, update, periodically on, what the growth is, if there is, I don't know, a big announcement, say like a partnership or anything like that, to always keep them in the loop. And that really, builds, that interest over time. So start engaging as early as you can. So that's the first one. The second one, and to be honest with you, in our case, as you can imagine, a big part of our business, I mean, although now that we got into other on-demand services and we're building towards that super app that Alan was referring to, our main business at some point was ride hailing. And ride hailing, of course, was impacted by COVID. And for us, we were planning on doing a price round actually last year around, March, April, when COVID hit pretty much the globe. And our plans got delayed because of that. As you can imagine, we were impacted by the whole COVID situation. And that was, in hindsight, something good for us, to be honest, because it allowed us to be scrappy during that period. It allowed us to, think, and that attention to detail that I mentioned before allowed us to even, keep growing during that period. And having that happening was actually an added value to our advantage when we, started resuming and talking, again with VC firms. And that led, to, a much more significant Series A round that we weren't even planning on doing maybe a year ago. So I guess, the last advice to entrepreneurs is that, at the end of the day, the investment in itself, it's true that you need that capital to grow, but it should not be, an end to, or, an end goal to the business. You should, always strive, to, by all means, to, keep growing, finding solutions. And hopefully, if you're able to achieve all that, I can guarantee you, irrespective of the geography you are in, you'll be, in one way or another, be able to raise funds. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Nordin. Lars, is this your first investment in the region in Africa, North Africa, or was that kind of a region you focused on before, or is this the first investment?
For me personally, it is, yes. I've invested in Africa before, and I've been very inspired by some of the companies I've seen there in the past as well. And to me, it's inevitable that you're going to see enormous companies come out of the region. And just even think about the knock-on effect. Nuruddin touched on it a little bit before. Think about some of the folks who are part of the Yashia journey now, and they're going to start up their own companies later, right? And this, you see that with every successful companies that folks, they get together and they start up something that sort of like springs off from getting to know each other and getting to know how to build a big company. But a little bit back to your original question around, the founders who are pitching investors and so on, specifically today, but in the future, I would recommend start with the dream, right? And Alan mentioned it a little bit before. So like, what's the role of the investor? So start with the dream. Who's like the dream investor from a firm point of view or from a partner point of view that is missing next to you to really be on this long-term journey. And remember, investing is, at the end of the day, it's a people business. So you have to make sure that, that there's sort of like a personal fit, but even more so also that they have the experience that they can contribute with the growth, the long-term growth of the company. And, when you pitch investors, remember that as a startup founder, you are in the driver's seat. It's like a walk in with confidence and, portray that, mission that you're on and why you're doing this, why this really matters to you. And then when you want to think about what is the investor looking at, it's really sort of like, what are the assumptions, what are the beliefs that you've got to have for this to be a big company, right? So address those questions head on. What do you have to believe for this to be a big company? But I would really sort of like encourage folks to, start with the dream and do your research on the investors as well. And make, look at what they've invested in before, both as a firm, but also as individual partners, if you can get access to that data.
That's a very important recommendation, actually. Thank you, Lars. By the way, going back to the question about the geography, Lars, do you have anything changed in the North Africa or Africa region that today make you feel more comfortable about investing in this region, or is it something that was there over time? Do you have anything in mind that makes you kind of more comfortable investing in Africa and North Africa?
I mean, absolutely. I think it was Nuruddin or Alan who mentioned it before. The same thing applied to Europe a few years ago. Before I moved to Silicon Valley, there wasn't really a culture of startups. It was more sort of like you were aspiring to get a job in a big company, a safe company where you could get your salary and you would probably stay a long time, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's for many people, that's no longer the dream, right? It's more of a generational shift that's actually happened globally. And Nuruddin is part of shaping that today, right? People are looking at him today,
Absolutely.
having raised such a big round, and they say, you know what? I want to be on the Endeavor panel next year. I want to be that person. So it's about inspiring the next generation and actually taking that responsibility seriously as well, because I do believe very, very deeply that, startups are the growth engine of prosperity and of the future. Gives people dreams, and you have sort of like this flywheel effect where folks, they start to invest themselves, they become angels, they start to advise and help other companies, and it brings up the entire ecosystem. So I'm very encouraged about investing in the region. And by the way, it all starts with the engineering schools as well. So this is what we have to encourage to, to show people that they come out with an engineering degree, and they can start something, right? Or a business degree, any degree really, and you can sort of like start your business and team up with people who you can build this with, right? It's all about sort of like that teamwork experience. So I'm very encouraged about the region, and I hope that I'm going to do a lot more investments in the future as well in the region.
Amazing, and we're looking forward to the Yassir Mafia to start impacting the region.
Well, they have to build Yassir first, then they get to be the mafia. That's how it works. You got to go in that order.
We're at the beginning of the journey.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Don't skip the chapters.
So, Alan, actually, tomorrow I know you're going to be sharing the Q1 Catalyst report. Are there anything specific, any insights that you've seen beginning of this year that are worth sharing with the group? Insights or any results or
yeah, I was going to say it's a 3-hour-long meeting tomorrow, so I'll condense it to a highlight or two. But first of all, before doing that, Lars, I just want to kind of second what you were just saying about the importance of role models, right, and success stories, because we actually think that's how you bring about this change over a generation or two, right, is that people need success stories and role models and examples that they can look up to and say, hey, if that guy can do it, if he can do it or she can do it, maybe I can do it too. And the main place Endeavor has already seen this happen is Latin America, where the ultimate sort of scale of success has increased tremendously over the last 5 or 10 years. We used to talk about when we might have an Endeavor portfolio company reach $1 billion in valuation, right, or create 1,000 jobs. Today, businesses like Mercado Libre, which was a really early Endeavor company, is a publicly listed business on the NASDAQ that's about an $80 billion company and has something like 100,000 employees, right? And so I think the scale just goes up as entrepreneurs can dream bigger and imagine what could be possible. But I do think role models are super important. Walid, to your question, we were just looking at all the numbers for Endeavor Catalyst and realizing that what Lars is describing is 100% true. That Silicon Valley, it might almost be true to say, is no longer a place, right? It is a mindset, it's a mentality, and people are bringing it everywhere in the world. And in fact, perhaps one of the most important impacts of the pandemic, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, is the fact that it's brought about a lot of behavioral change where technologies existed already, but people weren't necessarily using them in this way before, right? And the obvious examples here are like grocery delivery and telehealth and online learning. But there's a really profound one for venture capital, which is what we're doing right now, right? Connecting live via Zoom, via video, and essentially building trust-based relationships this way without getting on an airplane and going somewhere to see each other face to face. And that technology was here 2 years ago. But frankly, like people didn't invest via Zoom, right? They sort of insisted like, well, if I'm going to invest in the Middle East, I have to get on a plane and fly there and see people. And that's changed, right? And I think that change is permanent. And I guess for the attendees and folks, I'll put a link in the chat right now to a piece that I wrote in January that we are going to be talking about more tomorrow, called Redrawing the Map, or essentially like how the decoupling of capital and geography is having a profound impact on allowing the world's best investors to now reach new geographies and new places. And I think it's potentially the most important shift in venture capital, at least in my career, right, over the last 15 or 20 years. And I think it's very likely here to stay. So to me, it's an awesome idea because, of course, raising money, as both Noor and Lars talked about, it's about much more than the money, right? It's about partnership. It's about finding kind of the right, smart, connected capital and networks that you can bring in. And the fact that some folks are now investing, having built a trust-based relationship, but having done it via Zoom I think it's a really interesting new trend to pay attention to.
Perfect. That's a very good point, Alan. Thank you. We're actually gonna very soon go back to our many one-on-one meetings that are waiting for us. But before we do that, I wanted to open the floor for actually the three of you. Do you have any things that you have in mind that we didn't cover? Any questions to ask to each other, or let me know, or any closing comments?
I mean, like the only thing that comes to my mind, honestly, kind of, like going back to what Lars and Alan mentioned, like dream big, and be ambitious. I think that's something like super important. And I always, something I tell like entrepreneurs in the region. True that like we are, say, like from the Maghreb region, and we tend to, I guess, one, don't see global enough, even if like from the region, and two, even in terms of I mean, since like this is maybe related more to fundraising. Now capital is global. So we can seek out capital like in any parts of the world, irrespective of like the geography we operate in. What's more important is like what kind of business we're building, and like what kind of not just like the growth that we're able to achieve, but also like what is the mission and the vision behind it, and that's what drives the whole ecosystem. So yeah, dream big, be ambitious, and like seek that support and that network like anywhere in the world now. Like we're one world, honestly, and I truly believe that like Endeavor kind of really puts that in the map. I mean, it's I mean, Alan was talking earlier, like about Rappi, for instance. I like through the Endeavor network, I can meet, like the Rappi founders, and get advice from them. And so, yeah, we need to really, like seek out that worldwide network. It's super important, irrespective of the geography we currently operate in.
Perfect. Anything else from Ross or Alan? Good. Perfect. Well, I really thank you for your time. This was amazing. And Lars, it's been a pleasure meeting you for the first time, or meeting you. And I hope to make a lot of connections for you in the region with startups and entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much.
Nurdin, congrats again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if I could interject just one comment for Lars. I can't believe this is your first Endeavor event.
Exactly.
You speak our language, right? This is exactly what we're talking about, right? Of how to build these ecosystems around the world. So I'm so happy that we connected in this way, because we clearly have a shared vision for what the next few decades should look like.
So it's Nurdin who's bringing Lars to Endeavor.
That's excellent. I love it.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and we'll speak soon.
All right. Bye. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to see you. Thanks for the invitation.